So I have the great honour of being here today with Her Excellency Deputy Secretary General Mohammed.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with you. Great to be with you.
So my very first question is quite a simple one. It's how did the idea for the UN World Data Forum come about? And if you could also tell me a little bit about kind of where it fits in the larger development framework of the United Nations.
Well, this did come about just as we were about to gavel the 2030 agenda in 2015, where it was very clear that a lot of the work that we were doing in trying to shape the goals and the targets required a set of indicators that were robust, and we suddenly were looking at the data that was available and realizing that we needed the data revolution, so that we made sure that that big thing that we wanted up front, a universal agenda that left no one behind, would be a reality. And so therefore it was a coming together of statisticians and other key stakeholders to say we need to have this forum every 2 years so that we can take stock and see how close we're coming to giving robust baselines that we can begin to invest in. And this is really important in terms of us measuring how far we're going, making sure that we address gaps, particularly when we talk about the issue of women and children, but on many difficult issues as governance and human rights, which are all incredibly difficult to measure the progress of, and for which today, with hindsight, so important that we put it in place. And here we are, we're in Dubai at the World Data Forum.
That's exciting.
Very exciting, yes.
And the slogan for the conference is harnessing the power of data for sustainable development.
Yes.
So can you say a little about the role of data in accelerating the implementation of the SDGs themselves?
Very important that we understand that data statistics are, you'd say they're the bloodline for planning. And there's no way that we can begin to look at issues or see where we invest in them if we don't have some baseline to know, first of all, what's the population, disaggregate the data with women, issues on climate change, migration, you name it in the frame. We've got to have data to allow us know where everyone is, what the issues are, how best to address them. And so accelerating it is that we need to have the technology, the data literacy, the partnerships that will allow us to do this. And so stock taking every 2 years is very important. We recognized the gaps 2 years ago in South Africa, and this time coming to establish acceleration is on its way to 2019, when we actually take stock for the first time of where we are on the SDGs. Now, we can't do that without data. The measures that we want to know how many girls are still in school, how many have dropped out, have we reduced the awful indices we had of women dying in childbirth, what have we done when we've talked about jobs and youth, are we going, is the trajectory right or not? We already know on climate change that we're not doing well enough. So what is it that we're not doing well enough on? And can we be specific to the region, to the country, to the particular players that we're talking about, so that we can advocate for more, whether it is resources or more efforts or people's rights. And so it really is a whole kaleidoscope of expectations for which data is central.
I think you've already answered my third and final question, which was going to be, can you tell me about the role of the UN right now in accelerating the kind of data that is needed to be produced to make sure that we're properly implementing the SDGs?
Well, currently we have a reform in place that the Secretary General has put for management, which tries to see us bringing service closer to the delivery point. But we also had peace and security and development. And in the case of development, what we have is a strengthening of our coordination of all the UN assets, our agencies and resources that we have, our partners. And what we're doing there is country by country establishing robust baselines and looking to implement annually products such as what we call the voluntary national contributions, which are really reviews of what countries are doing on the SDGs. Data is required for that. And then, every so often, if to say we want to put in a pipeline of projects, it will require that we have data for it. And that's being done at the country level. So strengthening data sources. The other pieces of work that we're doing is there's a lot of concern today that data itself could do harm in the wrong hands. Technology is being used, artificial intelligence, and so the Secretary General has put together a high-level panel. It's co-chaired by Jack Ma and Melinda Gates, and what it's looking at is what's the niche there for the UN to put in the checks and balances and to protect the individual. At the same time, have access to data that will optimize an individual's possibilities to achieve the SDGs.
Sounds like the timing of this forum is absolutely perfect.
It is, and you know, we're very excited about it. It's in a country that are using technology and data for common good, but there are also a lot of young people and women that are in decision making, and I think that, you know, that's some of the data that we ask for. How many people are in the cabinet? How many are in parliament? How many are in decision making? So if women are sort of breaking that glass ceiling, and there is you know, the host country is able to show that, then we should share it. I think we still have a way to go with youth. We've got a great youth strategy in the UN, but now we need to operationalize it. The data shows that they are the largest cohort, but what are we going to do to actualize their aspirations and you know, involve them in that? It's not a question of them being bystanders or observers, but they've got to have a role to play, and you know, this whole thing is a collective responsibility. Peace, healthy planet, we've got to do it, and we can.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Welcome.
for taking the time to speak to me.
Thank
It's such
you.
a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.